that he's difficult to describe. His artistic work spans spoken word poetry, dance, hip hop, directing, activism, and education. He is the chief of program and pedagogy at the Yerba Buena Center for the Arts in San Francisco, one of the country's preeminent homes for multidisciplinary contemporary art. Through performance, strategic partnerships, shared inquiry, and open source technologies, they create dynamic performance for prototyping and civic action. He is an inaugural recipient of the United States Artists Rockefeller Fellowship that annually recognizes 50 of the country's greatest living artists. The 2011 Alpert Award winner in theater, and was one of the 21 artists named to the inaugural class of the Doris Duke Artists. He is a co-founder of Life is Living, a national series of one-day festivals designed to activate under-resourced parks and affirm peaceful urban life through hip-hop arts and focused environmental actions. He has so many more awards and accomplishments, there are too many to name, but I won't keep you from him any longer. Please help me welcome Mark Bamuthi Joseph.
That was tight. It's true. It's like you get to hear cool stuff about yourself instead of just like posting cool stuff about yourself. How you guys doing? Everybody good? Cool. So I flew here last night from Oakland, California. Thank you. Home of the Black Panthers, home of Steph Curry and Kevin Durant and Andre Iguodala. You guys are heated, I know. Oakland is my home, but it's not where I'm from. I'm from New York City. Okay, good. I guess more love for New York than for Oakland. But I've come to appreciate California living. I've come to appreciate Oakland. I miss autumn. And that's like it. My name is Mark Bamuthi Joseph. My friends call me Bamuthi. I design and manage creative incubators for social change. I sometimes make small poems for my 2 kids, and I sometimes make big theater pieces for the Brooklyn Academy of Music or the Chautauqua Symphony or Lincoln Center, the Philadelphia Opera, like that. You will learn that it is okay to have more than one job. There is your job, there is your vocation, there is your vision, there is the mission. And everything that I do is in service of the mission. My primary artistic action right now is my practice of producing large-scale affirmations of Black life in public realm. My true passion is asking interesting and sometimes socially incongruous groups of people provocative questions. Like the right question, I think, can drive my work as an opera librettist for stage or as a community organizer in the town. My culture making is inquiry driven. So for instance, let's say the Civil War had gone the other way. When do you think the US would have finally abolished slavery? Like, was bloodshed necessary for abolition, or do we think that the end of slavery was like an ethical inevitability? I ask this in the context of global action on climate change or domestic action on gun control. Are the ethics of equity and the sanctity of the human body naturally occurring points in the trajectory of the socialized world? And if not, And if the Civil War had gone the other way, how long? How much longer do you think would have gone before enslaved people said to burn this motherfucker down? Or maybe to put it another way, when was the last time, when's the last time that you felt truly free? Think of the matter of Black life as a thing of beauty. Black life, like a 12-year-old on a Saturday in the park type free. Think of Black life on a curve, like the parabolic swerve of a Leo Messi free kick strike, Black life art, destined for bullseye flight, the target of the beast marked like a genius in free space, triangulated by sniper fire, self-hate, and the fallacy of the power of phallus and race, triangulated passes passing strange, fruit juice catching full lips, shaped like winter mist kiss, so soft like an Argentine wine thick, Black life, you know, just hanging there. Like a forgotten yesterday, or Sandra Bland in her cell, or spinning rock after a left foot flick, Black life just hovering like it's waiting for justice before it comes down. Defenses beaten, looking up from the ground, ball spinning in flight, so fly, Black body be, Black light, balanced on a tightrope, running full stride, an army of angry men get in the way of the goal, pick your pocket of your Skittle-filled wallet, cap you in your cul-de-sac, boy, go home, where you find that joy from. How you keep that joy from fading in the apathy of your Greyhound blues. You star in stripes. You make magic matter like the sincere thrust of a choked breath, left breathless. Black light. In my first memory of the game, we are running barefoot uphill on limestone. Baby Doc Duvalier is chilling in a mansion in the distance, but here, every boy on my grandpa's block is chasing a tennis ball bandaged in loose socks, passing it with our feet. I'm a New York City kid visiting for the summer, USA kid in the hemisphere's poorest country. Only time I fit in with the rest is inside of the game. My love of soccer is a heritage story. So from my childhood through the recent past, I've been growing towards this new work. Pelota, it's called. And it explores the matter of Black life and the ecology of egalitarianism played out inside of the world's game. It's a story of my body in its late summer years. The physics of a globally networked economy running in tandem with the fragile network of a dancer's anatomy. It's a bet that visible bodies and the dramatized shadow can coexist as complementary modes of narration, that sweat can have as much currency as silhouette to transition both narrative point of view and visual dimension. It is physically demanding, visually deft, viscerally reaching, linguistically twisted in hip-hop and hope. The work ultimately is sprung from the bliss of a goal scorer's run. It shares what his countrymen do after the ball beats the goalie, the closest thing going to freedom. So as part of making this piece, I've developed a site-specific community engagement project that accesses Pelota's field of inquiry and creates a sports-based political action for kids of color, particularly young immigrants and their parents. The project design is centered around afternoons of soccer clinics and political education. And what you're seeing is the launch of the prototype that we executed this past June. Anybody been to the Guggenheim Museum or heard of the Guggenheim Museum? So the Guggenheim Museum commissioned me to do this project in partnership with youth soccer clubs based in Harlem and the South Bronx. At its core, our practice calls for overlaying choreography on top of traditional skill-building soccer drills, and then teaching that choreography to several hundred youth, and then using an excerpt from Pelota to reveal to the young people the connection between that choreography and strategies for cultural integrity within the context of American promise. So to make this vision manifest, we connected with two soccer clubs, FC Harlem and South Bronx United, whose primary membership consists of immigrants and first-generation youth who also had part of their operating mission an ethic of academic enrichment to accompany athletic success. Additionally, we collaborated with East Harlem's High Arts and a national immigration advocacy group called Culture Strike for curricular and educational support. The project is called Moving and Passing, and it intersects curriculum development, site-specific performance, and the politics of joy, while using soccer as a metaphor for the urgent question of enfranchisement among youth of color. The process for the day begins with a retreat in April of 2016 when we all met to discuss exactly what it was that we wanted to build. We engaged in this reciprocal learning module where they taught my performance company some drills that involved moving without the ball, and then we taught them some basic gestural phrases from our theater piece, and then we both learned from Culture Strike's Fabiana Rodriguez about the organization's tactics for art making with immigrant youth. So then my theater company went off-site for a few weeks, and we re-engineered the soccer drills that we learned, and we turned them into sites for skill building as intended, but also as opportunities for performance and political education. So then, in the summer of 2016, we hosted this workshop day where we taught 3 of these re-choreographed soccer drills to the volunteer coaches. And then we invited every youth in FC Harlem and South Bronx United to participate in a day-long exercise in the South Bronx. So during the day, each of the kids learned the choreographed pieces that my company devised. But we didn't tell them that they were dancing. We told them that each piece was actually a stamina and agility drill to help them develop their awareness on the field of play. We designed the day so that multiple zones were activated at once. Right? So some kids would be moving in an agility zone while other kids were practicing a specific on-the-ball skill in another zone dedicated to heading or dribbling or trapping. We set up 10 of these zones around the field, but the kids could only spend 15 or 20 minutes in each place before rotating to the next zone. The idea was that cultural practice and athletic practice can coexist on the same continuum. So I know that the women's soccer team here is 10-4 with the draw, is doing pretty well. How's your football team doing? How's your women's football team doing? So to drive that point home, this coexistence of athletics and cultural enterprise. In between every rotation, we had this pop-up art moment. So imagine you're a 15-year-old kid from Honduras and you're now living in Harlem and you're on the field playing with your folks and you just practice dribbling through cones for 15 minutes and then all of a sudden a marching band comes down the field. So these kids are killing it, right? And then you go back to playing football. Except you're doing these weird movements instead of kicking the ball around. And then when you're done, a West African dance and drum ensemble starts rocking it near the 18-yard box. Right? So once every child learned and ran through about 4 zones, maybe after about 2 hours, all the kids gathered at midfield and my company performed an excerpt of Pelota. Our excerpt was called Moving Without the Ball, and it uses some of the movement patterns that the young people had just learned, but it additionally used poetic text to contextualize those drills and movement as social concepts. And the pencil on wood is a daughter of the dust. And we a people of the land with a border that crossed us. All borders are bogus. That's my line in the sand, white chalk in the grass. You think this the first time some man made me forge my own chains? Told me to build my own wall to fence in my not quite human form, lit by the glow of his ego and the fire of his white hot brand. Tell me go home, presuming I can still walk in when I get there, run away, sing of Dixie, see me paperless in the land of the free, dreaming La Migra demons sent to get me, stay woke. Passing is heritage in America. My grandparents too came here without possession, and moving without the ball is the immigrant story. Strategizing in place, keeping pace with other lions lying in wait, break away, weigh your options, then wait, then pray. Just keep pace while the keeper of the ball takes the focus. Just keep pace, eyes wide open, yield to the flow you cannot suspend, bend but don't break. Focus on the goal, but have your eye on it all, because maybe you'll catch a break, but until you do, you're moving without the ball, with your eye on everything moving and just trying to keep pace. Steam train whistling Dixie, elegy of migrant pride, hidden like a broken cast of the past in the ashes of a myth, unspoken heard, broken word, broken heart under fist. Keep it moving on the run. You can't get walled in, son. Keep pace without possession. They just might hear the sound of us running. But immigrants gotten so used to moving out of sight that they will never see us coming. So finally, after all that activity, our team of performers and coaches and the staff of Culture Strike engaged the young soccer players in on-field art making, where they were guided through workshops meant to extract poetry and visual iconography that connected moving on the field without the ball to moving throughout this country without possession of center. This is my favorite moment, maybe. So I have an 11-year-old daughter and a 14-year-old son. And generally speaking, my 14-year-old son would not be rolling around with a hummingbird that he just painted on his back. But these kids who are kind of, love this game and had just gone through this whole day of activity where they went back and forth from choreography to cultural expression to playing the game to finally making these artifacts. The hummingbird and the butterfly are pieces that we use because both have really intense and poetic migratory patterns. The monarch butterfly in particular, and the hummingbird. So I love this moment because at a point, your politics around gender or sexuality or the compartmentalization of art and culture, all that dissipates. And really all that's left is joy. So I will admit to you that I'm literally here today, gone tomorrow. I'm on a flight at 8 a.m. And two things happen as I travel around the country. The first is that I am renewed in my faith that people in art spaces are magic. But as a performer, I might leave Boston or New York or Mesa or Miami, and I always wonder what becomes of the collective inspiration in the room after it dissipates. Like, what if I could take the most inspired audience members home with me and network and collaborate with them over time? What change could we make together? Like, the truth is that as amazing as this project was in its execution, I haven't seen the kids since June. And pertinent to this conversation, I don't believe that the Guggenheim has seen them either. And that to me seems like a preventable neglect. So how is this group of kids different from any audience or theater or dance or any gallery patron? Whose responsibility is it to harness inspiration in our modern cities? I'm gonna ask you guys 2 questions. And I want you to spend a couple of minutes with folks nearby contemplating them, okay? Yes? All right, cool. This is the part where I get out from behind the podium, just make sure everybody cool, y'all good? All right, great. So here's my first question. And you can just like get together groups of 2 or 3 or whatever, like 1, 2, 3, like that. Question 1, how does your labor generate dignity for yourself or for others? How does your labor generate dignity for yourself or for others? You got 2 minutes. Think of this as a first date. It's a little icebreaker. How does your labor generate dignity for yourself or for others? Take like 1 more minute. All right, last thoughts. That was tight. Y'all got quiet just hella quick. That was great. So, there's this kind of think tank and advocacy organization called the Yellowwood Institute. I totally bit this from them. They describe, in thinking about, well, here, I'll just say that they've identified 7 different types of capital. Let's go around this wheel and just talk about them very briefly, okay? Individual capital is one's personal health and fortitude. Your individual capital. How strong are you? How fast are you? Do you get sick? Are you, how the wealth of your body. Individual capital. Political capital. Political capital is the degree to which you possess sway or influence over others. Political capital. Different than social capital. Social capital is like, who's in your network? Who likes you? Who's your tribe? Who you down with? How much social capital do you have? Political capital is, how can I get motherfuckers to do what I want? Social capital is, how many people like me? Political capital, social capital. Intellectual capital. Knowledge, wisdom. More than how much you know, your ability to wield a particular epistemology or base of knowledge actively in the world. Your intellectual capital. Also included in the idea of intellectual capital is creativity, right? So you have individual capital, what's in your body. You have intellectual capital, just kind of the breadth of what you know and how you might apply it. You have political capital, which is about sway. Social capital, what you know, or who you know. Natural capital is like fauna and foliage, rivers, trees, land. Right? Like you may not know anybody, but you have a 1,500-acre farm. You might be Robert Redford in 1970s. Maybe you're not Robert Redford in the 1970s, but you just come across the Sundance Preserve and the bears, the salmon. Natural capital. Built capital refers not only to buildings and towers and the like, but infrastructure. Structures and infrastructure that are functional. So this theater is built capital. The road that got you to this theater is also built capital. And then financial capital. What's in your wallet? So individual, intellectual, political, social, natural, financial, built capital. Everybody got a sense of those? Yes? Yeah? Cool. So my second question for you is, if you were to bequeath one of these to your grandchildren, which of these would you bequeath them? And maybe a twisted way of asking the same question is, if your grandparents were to leave you something, which of these would you have? Two sides of the same coin. What would you want for your inheritance? Which of these 7 types of capital would you prefer? And then the other side of the coin, which of these would you leave for your grandchildren if you could? You got 2 minutes. Make it happen. Y'all got the question? Y'all came in off top? right, let's take one more minute. Okay, last thoughts. All right. Spiritual. The question is spiritual capital just came up. I wish my grandparents had given me spiritual capital. What would I bequeath to my grandchildren? I'm not going to answer that. I don't know, it was a very hard question that I just asked you to think of. I don't know, I ask you these questions because I think most of us have to be talked out of financial capital. Like maybe it's our go-to. I think that financial capital is the default arbiter or unit of measurement for value in our culture. Which is why I begin by asking you about the relationship between labor and dignity. Because I would like to think, as we all evolve, that whatever it is that we do in terms of work, that we are producing more than just financial capital for ourselves or for others. I'm also clear that in many of our art spaces and schools and businesses, a lot of us are rethinking equity, diversity, and inclusion, which is awesome, but I also wonder about how we define that equity. Do we mean equal access? Shared power? Equal safety? Like, is an equitable world one in which we all feel equally safe? Does equity mean equal? Can you achieve equity without pandering to tokenism? So, if I may, I'd like to take you through how I'm contending with these questions as an active artist who has been integrated into the leadership of a major art space in California. These are, what you're about to see are images from Life is Living, which to the naked eye looks like an eco-hip-hop festival in the hood. But it's actually an excuse to engage a disparate community, members and organizations in the opportunity to publicly respond to a single question. And that question is, what sustains life in your community? What sustains life in your community? The answers are sometimes rooted in environmental sustainability, but they often veer towards the colloquial and the absurd, like Frenchie's Chicken Shack sustains life in Houston, like Beyonce does. Or City Slicker Farm sustains life in Oakland, like Urban Relief does. B-Boys sustain life in New York City, just like the sustainable South Bronx does. Life is Living is your prototypical community collaborative disguised as a get down in the park. In motion, the festival looks like this.
I want want you to look around and I want you to think about intentional community design. Like, how is it that we all happen to be here together at this one moment in time? Who are the advocates? Who are the voices? What are the faces? We who are gathered in reflection of what is possible. Petition the city government of Oakland to dream with us. We, the people. Ask our government very simply to invest in life with us.
I was the living gold they stole, but my skin remembers the people to whom I was connected.
Taste like Malcolm, fire like Ali, doesn't feel like Farrakhan with the light in me. I am the greatest. On this earth, I got originality. All in my verse, and I move the crowd that move me. I move the slave to be free.
Look around. The incredible skate park, the after-school youth programs, the aquatic center. Oakland, please sustain these. We petition the city to reconsider this allocation as not only a worthy investment in historical and local infrastructure, but also as a visible mechanism to combat environmental racism by making safe, active space for local Black and brown children to reprioritize life as a guiding and sustainable value. This is why you're here. We are family. We are intergenerational. We are multi-hued. We are what's possible. We are life. We are living. This is why we're here. Pack for the future. Let's go. Let's not stumble into tomorrow. Let's go confidently, intentionally into the future. Life, live it. Let's do this.
So, out of these questions, out of these creative ecosystems, I make performances, a kind of pedagogical art. Literally inspired by the process of producing Life is Living around the country, I made a theater piece that premiered at Yerba Buena Center for the Arts in the fall of 2011. And 3 months later, I became the director of performing arts in that same building. I am undivorced from my many selves. I'm an artist at work. I don't see my job as curating performance, I see it as making culture. In fact, the institutional mission at my art space is to generate culture that moves people. So as I begin my tenure at YBCA, I'm producing these inquiry-based platforms for public organizing, and I'm reading this book called Where Good Ideas Come From by this cat named Steven Johnson. He writes about the natural history of innovation in a way that suggests that the urban context can and has replicated patterns of evolution and growth that we also find in nature. So for instance, all the elements present in the planet's primordial soup might have randomly collided to create complex compounds, but you couldn't just go from methane and ammonia to the Empire State Building. You could go from methane and ammonia to Donald Trump, though. Similarly, you couldn't have built an iPhone in 1863, even if you had the idea and the design for one. Does that make sense? There are a series of combinations and evolutionary forms, evolutionary steps that had to occur first in order for the idea to bear. The next level of possible combinations forms what Johnson calls the adjacent possible. The adjacent possible. At any moment, the world is capable of incredible change, but only certain changes can happen. So Johnson says that any new idea is a network of cells exploring the adjacent possible. So my design question as a change agent is not how to generate audience or revenue, not how my labor can create critical mass, but how to generate networks in service of probing the adjacent possible. So my space is like this hoity-toity spot in downtown San Francisco, across the street from the Museum of Modern Art, across the street from the Museum of the African Diaspora, from the Contemporary Jewish Museum. And like that, it's positioned like many cultural institutions around this city, connecting to its environment through the primacy of its own aesthetics, driven by a mission to provide socially engaging content less than intentionally impacting the social environment through active, energetic reciprocity. But when I was hired at my home institution, no one mandated me to stop being myself, right? Everything we are is everywhere we've been. So that doesn't just mean that I could continue to make objects like dances or plays or poems. It means that from an administrative perch, I apply an artist's thinking to curation, engagement, and administration. So the broad question here is, how can artistic vision transform community? Like, can we connect this perhaps to the relationship between artistic vision and strategic vision? Is it possible to pedagogically choreograph social justice? Can we design a social practice built on the instigations of a curated few? Do we understand that culture precedes policy? Culture precedes policy. So for instance, without hip hop, we don't have Obama. Without reality TV, we don't have Trump. Culture precedes policy. So if that's the case, then my belief is that social change begins with artists that are asking the right questions. And we can organize our community to refine, reframe, and respond to those questions in a way that can seduce the public will. We do this in 6 parts. As a staff, we organize a group that we call the YBCA 100, and then we bring key members of the group at a summit. And it looks like this. Welcome to your Buena Center for the Arts. I want you to consider the life cycle of a question as nurtured by a cultural incubator. Our job here is to make social incubators for creative change.
We need more and different kinds of people gathering around those deep poetic questions.
Pretty much the most important part of what we're going to do today is going to be the moment where we turn it over to you.
We invite you to participate, and subsequently we ask you to invite others.
A question comes into your head, a problem comes into your head.
What happens when we don't change hearts?
How does the body wear trauma?
What is it that you really believe that the institution needs to be in order to be viable, a viable entity in the society in which it serves?
How do you break through the shutdown, the disembodiment, the disengagement that happens?
How would curbing food waste better prepare us to face the challenges of climate change?
The job of the artist in this day and age is to put people into positions where they can actually feel and experience in their own body what you're trying to communicate.
If we don't change us, we don't change the world.
Who do we need to be? So our YBCA 100 list is wild, like John Legend and Beyonce are on that list, but also a group called the Ovarian Psychos, which is a crew of immigrant women based in Los Angeles that have formed a bicycle gang. They're on the list. Social practitioner Tanya Brugetta, as you saw, Carrie Mae Weems, all these really amazing folks. So you heard a lot of questions being generated at our summit, and from all of those questions, we distilled them down to 3. So from the summit that we had in 2015, the questions that we came up with, what we kind of extracted from the entire day are these 3 questions. 1, can we design freedom? 2, what does equity look like? And 3, why citizenship? So we solicit responses to these questions from our multiple publics, and we eventually invite 90 YBCA fellows to each undergo a year's worth of curated experience and meetings. The fellows are not all artists. They're economists, lawyers, architects, violinists. They work at Apple as marketing strategists. They work at NASA as engineers. They work independently as choreographers. These are liquid networks that provide a kind of dating service for promising hunches among disparate people. Over the course of the year, our fellows break into small working groups and use YBCA's curated events and curated artists as a complicating ground to digest the inquiry in an art-framed way. After a year together, we asked them to generate a public response to the question on the table. So a couple of years ago, one of the questions that emerged from the summit was, what is on the other side of your body's joy? And also, what is on the other side of your body's shame? So this is a moment from a song cycle that one of our fellows created. Her name is Candace Antique Wicks. And in response to the question, what's on the other side of my body's shame, she developed this like 25-minute I would call it a song cycle that used a legacy of Black shame as its central topic. In the center here, in the green shirt, is Danya Cabello. In response to the question, what's on the other side of my body's joy, she held these intergenerational soccer clinics right outside of our theater. So, in asking these people to respond to these critical questions, we at Yerba Buena then talk back to them with a public marketing campaign. Like a public affirmation of this cycle of asking questions and prototyping responses. So we're not just a center for the arts, we're the center for the art of doing something about it. We're the center for the art of progress. We're the center for the art of expressing optimism against unfathomable odds. And then, if culture precedes policy, this cycle of asking, refining, prototyping, and celebrating begins to take root in the public will. So, yeah, as an arts center, we bring together activists and philanthropists, artists, technologists, and humanitarians, but who we curate for our stages is based on the belief that the burning questions these people are asking are the fertile ground for the world that we want to make. So, my story is this. I don't really believe or trust in art that doesn't bleed or sweat or cry. I imagine that my own kids might live in a time when the most valuable commodities are fresh water and empathy. I love pretty dances and majestic sculpture as much as the next guy, but give me something else to go with it. Lift me up with the aesthetic sublime, and give me the tools to redeem inspiration. I don't believe in hermetically sealed art spaces full of objects that you love but don't reach out to touch you back. I believe that art isn't other, it is of us, and it must be integrated into the cycle of social progress in a systemic way. My belief is that we can't expect artists to go off in isolation and be weird or creative or whatever, and then come back from the island with basketfuls of transformation for us to pick and eat and be changed by. I am an artist with an integrated practice of collaboration, who in turn has been integrated into the true leadership of an institution, which in turn is taking civic leadership by thoughtfully and skillfully designing a structure for thinking and building creative partnerships. I want to say that this is an idea. It's a structure that moves from inquiry to impact. Our adversaries have designed systems that effectively incarcerate us and deport us. And we are literally wondering aloud, can we design freedom? Thanks for your time. So we have a few minutes if any questions or complications or anything like that came up.
I got one.
Cool.
How
It's great. Well, there are practical responses and there are philosophical responses, right? I think philosophically, you guys mostly are here in theater English. You guys are mostly here in the humanities, like for humanities class. I know you're not necessarily focused. How many folks are not focused on the humanities here? Like your major is something other than something in the humanities. Cool. How many folks here think about like the system of your education? The system of your education, not the education itself, but just how it functions. Yeah. I think a lot about systems in general. I think a lot about design in general. Like, you know, as my son is a high school freshman, I'm already like, all right, man, so you got to get your community service. You know, that last summer that you just did, where you just, you know, you were like a CIT or whatever, those days are over. We're talking internships now, you know, how many, you know, and he's 14 years old. And it's probably, you know, it's probably just kind of self-evident to you all. You kind of were in a system and maybe did not question. But at 14, I really shouldn't be pressuring him to think about the rest of his earthly existence. You know, he just wants to hoop in the summertime, and something in me says that I should let him just hoop in the summertime. So I think about these systems, and I think very specifically about systems of social progress. If our education is designed in a particular way to yield a particular kind of labor force, are there interventions that I might make or suggest or compose or choreograph that would lead to a different kind of labor force? Can I think about a world that is democratically controlled by the labor that created it? A world that is democratically controlled by the labor that created it, as opposed to the corporations that exploit it. So that's all the philosophy, right? And really all that is the same way that you might sketch in the margins of a piece of paper that maybe some of you guys were taking notes and others of you were playing tic-tac-toe or whatever. Like, when you use your free thought, what are you making? Can you design freedom? That's the philosophical stuff. Practically speaking, just come to California with all the rest of the hippies. Meet me at YMCA. I got a plan. Yes.
I'm just kind of curious as to what your process is, like getting to those philosophical questions or those designs, like what's the process?
Yeah, I'm always kind of unpacking. So the way that Pelota started, I grew up playing soccer, right? I've been playing since I was 5. I love the sport. I love all sports. I can tell you that the Cleveland Indians are going to the World Series. I can tell you that I'm not down with that because their logo is whack. And if they would just rename their team or like think about a different logo, I can be down for Cleveland winning. But so I'm down for all sorts of sports. I love this game, you know, forever. When I was growing up, I had this poster above my head by this artist named Keith Haring. It was this poster that had like this large black figure being held around its neck by a small white figure. And it said, "Free South Africa." And every morning I would wake up and those are the first words that I would see. I would see "Free South Africa" and then I'd see Michael Jordan. Like, so I loved sports growing up, but I grew up thinking about South Africa as this kind of evil place where the darker you were, the more easily sanctioned your oppression was. As if there exists anywhere in the world where the darker you are, the more beautifully you're seen. So I went to South Africa in 2009, and it was right before the World Cup. And there were these townships, these homes in these townships, and the government had painted them all like this cotton candy, coral pink color. And I was tripping because, there was all this investment in the cosmetic kind of reformation of the homes of the poorest in the culture. But I was wondering if there was the same amount of investment in sanitation systems, or water distribution systems, or roads, or education. And I thought, man, this same game, like soccer, it seems to be the only thing that the entire planet can agree to do together, And the same game that gives so much joy to so many people is the instrument for an inequitable distribution of wealth. It became an instrument in some ways for a kind of deeper, more deeply ensconced response to apartheid. So it was just a reality that I looked at, and then all the questions came. How did this come to be? What could be different? How would I do it? Where do I find my joy? What does freedom actually mean to me? What keeps me alive? These things. So the questions are a product of all that I've been and all that I want to see the world being, and also this notion of the adjacent possible. Like, what seems to be right there that I can't touch or name? The quotation that I used under the heading, the adjacent possible, is a quotation from Shakespeare. I don't know if y'all read that. As imagination bodies forth the forms of things unknown, the poet's pen turns them into shapes and gives to airy nothing a local habitation and a name. It's the poet's responsibility to call the next thing into being. Acknowledging that is also part of my process. Yeah.
For the 7 capitals, I was talking to her about it. Do you think that different ones are able to move into that, much like intellectual? I chose that because I think with intellect you're able to move into political capital or even film capitals. Mm-hmm. Do you think they can interlock with each other?
I would hope so. I think in an ideal world, like, can you imagine we're in a place where you're sitting at a table and all 7 types of wealth are represented at the table. Generally speaking, you have 7 different types of financial capital that are present at the table. And then you have like a politician and maybe somebody with intellectual capital. I'll fold spirit and ethics into intellectual capital. But that's generally how the world works. Whether it's the board of trustees at my institution or the board of trustees at most institutions, it's different representations of financial capital and like the weird people, that we bring in just to like say some off the wall shit. You know what I'm saying? So I think ideally, all these things not only bleed into each other, but all are present and equitably heard. That we don't make decisions based on some kind of fractured reflection of the ethics of financial capital. Yeah, let's build that world. Anybody else? Yes.
What, if anything, of your own education got you into this line of work, whether that's like a class or a person?
I definitely had awesome teachers. My wife is a kindergarten teacher. My master's degree is in education. I've taught at a number of colleges and universities. I prize education deeply, so definitely a number of educators. Maybe the freshest experience that I had, I remember being a junior in high school, and I was, cute. You know what I'm saying? I was like 17, this is 1990 something. No, I'll be 41. This is 1992. And I just made this dance, and it was cute. Did I mention that? And my dance teacher was like, "You're not that cute, dog. Like, you made a pretty dance. You made a cool dance, but to what degree? How's your process of collaboration? How did your art serve somebody besides yourself?" And I have to say that that's something that I'm constantly struggling with. The other truth is that I'm a first-generation American. My parents, my entire family was born in the poorest country in this hemisphere. I'm Haitian. And I don't really have the luxury of operating in a way that doesn't honor their sacrifice. Maybe none of us do. I would suggest that none of us do. But I don't have the luxury of not voting, even if I don't love my primary choices. Too much blood on the fields to not vote. Too hard of a time crossing the water to not look back. Why don't we leave it right there? Guys, thank you so much.